Good morning. How's everyone doing? Good to see you all. Karibuni sana. Hope you guys are well. This beautiful seventh day of August. It's interesting how fast time is moving. It's already the seventh and the month just started. But I hope that you guys are well. But we're really glad that you could join us as always. John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. We're here with Mitch. In case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. But like we always say, we always do prefer that you ask your questions on the Q&A section so that at least I can also end up having a look at them. And of course, for the guys who are joining us here for the first time, karibuni sana. We do this each and every morning from 9 a.m. in the morning, Monday to Friday. So you can use the same link that you did use to join us. You will definitely find us here. And of course, for the guys who are watching us from the socials, also you can tune in. But the good thing about it is you can also watch the broadcasts of what we end up discussing here. So in case you miss out on anything, then feel free to also catch up on YouTube and also on Facebook. And also remember to give us a like and a subscribe. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at what the watch list was looking like yesterday. Then we're going to be comparing that with what we have today. Then look at a couple of screenshots we got. Then look at what the situation is going to be looking like on the charts today. So you can see yesterday right there, Tuesday, the 6th of August, basically watching out to see whether we could get buying opportunities on the yen, the Great British Pound, the Swiss franc, and the euro. If you look at the situation today, it's like things have just completely switched sides. Remember that we're also operating in some very weird times on the charts. And of course, it's very uncharacteristic to find things really switching within one day, sides like that. But I guess it is what it is. So we'll start off by looking at the ones that we did have yesterday that unfortunately didn't make it to our watch list. So we'll start off with the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some sales. Yesterday at a time like this, price was somewhere within here. And I did point out that we're going to be trying to see whether we could get some sales in case the market came back in, within this region to the downside. And you can see that the sellers did come in. Of course, you possibly did need to read that on a smaller time frame to really see the detail. But even if you did not, you can see that during or just before the US session, the market literally came back in within this region for some sort of a retest. Just after those sellers came all the way down to within here. You definitely did need to do some money management on this one, especially when the market was back in within this area. And you can see that the buyers within here really held the market. And today during the Asian session, the market has gone to the upside, broken that region. Already, I think by that point in time, you should have already been out of your trade, or even if you are in on it, you should have already managed and definitely have put your stop loss at break even. Otherwise, you would have woken up with some good shocks. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. Remember that I pointed out that there was a bit of caution in on the GBPs rather. The market did end up coming back in within this area. And I did point out that I wanted to see a sign of the big boys showing up within here. If they did, then I would have possibly looked to see whether I would have gotten this buying opportunity. Unfortunately, the buyers were just nowhere to be seen. And you can see that the market came in within here. The sellers continued to push the market to the downside. Unfortunately, when that happened, there was definitely no trade for us on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. And yesterday in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here. So at around 9, did point out that I wanted to see the market come to the downside. Remember, I set an alert somewhere within here. And I pointed out that if I see the market coming back into the downside and possibly get a hold, then we could possibly try and see whether we could get a sell within there. You can also see the illustration that I had pointed out right there. So this was a trade that we were discussing with the guys in the AMP, looking at entry somewhere within there, coming down to within here. You can see that the market just came shy of that area where we're targeting. But remember, like we always point out, in as much as we're looking at SNR as a specific price, it's also a region. So generally somewhere within this area right here is an area where we had buyers. So as much as the actual price was here, but generally price did come in within that region. So this one wasn't a bad one. But of course, you can see the market did actually end up pulling back to the upside. Of course, during the Asian session, not quite sure what the Asian big boys are up to, because a lot of things are also, they've also quite moved. And we'll end up seeing that even as we end up looking at the rest of the currency pairs. So last but not least, we do have the euro against the US dollar for review. For this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. We wanted to see a sign of the big boys showing up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that there. And you can see that when the market came back in within here, maybe you could have looked for some buys maybe on a smaller time frame. You can see that the market came in at around 4:30. Price was back in within some sort of a buyer's region. And you can see that this buyer did have a go at it in terms of pushing the market to the upside. They just came shy of that area. But it seems that this seller right here really gave issues. And you can see that moving into today, the market has started to move to the downside. You could find that this one might end up going sideways, especially considering the fact that the euro and the US dollar are both on the same side. So you could find some issues with that one. But of course, I mean, if you're going to be trading that one, then that means that you're possibly going to be looking at it in terms of the technicals, maybe just looking at the fact that we're in a range and you're maybe going to be looking for trades on that one. But in terms of fundamentally, it is a trade that could potentially give you some issues. So we're going to look at a couple of screenshots. We're going to start off with this one from Daniela. So Daniela, if you're here, shout out to you. So this is on gold. So you can see that you got a really good sell coming down, which is good, somewhere higher up within this region right here, which was a good area to look for the sells. The market came down. I can see that your stop loss is already below your point of entry, which is good as the market was coming down, which was a good area to look for the trade. We discussed this one yesterday. Good to see that you actually got that sell coming down, which was really good in terms of where you got the entry. Not bad, just higher within this region right here. And I can see that, of course, once the market was moving down, lower stop loss within a good area, at least just giving the market sufficient room, to do its thing. It's ebb and flow. So Daniela, if you're here, shout out to you for that. So this was really good. And we also did get a screenshot from George Shege. So this is also on gold. So Daniela got the sell, made money, you got the buy. And it seems that your buy is working out more or less today. Looking at these dates, seems like this could be something that could be happening right now. And of course, I can see that you're targeting higher within that particular region right there. I can see that you got the buy within this region right here. Stop loss already above your point of entry, which is really good. So this is good. Also, in terms of where you're targeting, it's not overly ambitious. It's within a good region. Can't see that sellers have reacted off there before. And that's some really good work. So do keep up the good work. George Shege, always happy to see your screenshots here. And also for Daniela, keep up the good work. Really happy to see you killing it on the charts. So remember, guys, if you do get any setups, feel free to send them in to us. Us guys are more than happy to see what you guys are up to. Remember, like we always say, we're not asking you for your money in case you end up making any money. Of course, when we give you the setups, we definitely want you to be making money. So we just want to celebrate your wins with you. So if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us, whether good or bad. Even the bad ones, send them in to us. Even the ones that you hit a stop loss and you're wondering what possibly went wrong and you can't quite figure it out, send them in to us. We'll try and see whether we can end up giving you some advice. And that advice definitely will cut across a lot of people, because there are definitely lots of people who are watching here. So you're not the only one who's suffering in this market. Remember, there is 95% who are suffering. So you don't really need to be suffering alone. So feel free to send them in to us via WhatsApp. Us guys would be more than happy to be of much help to you guys. So shifting gears into matters today. So you can see right there, Wednesday, the 7th of August, the good year of our Lord 2024. So we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities on the New Zealand dollar, the Australian dollar, and the Canadian dollar. And we're going to be mixing and matching that up with everything on the sell side. In terms of the indices, you can see that there's not much that has shifted. On the fundamental front, there's already been a couple of news events that have come out this morning. Some Euro and Great British Pound news events that have just come out. So we will see how things end up panning out. And you can see that during the Asian session, also a couple of news events that we will be expecting, but not as much as we did end up having yesterday. You can see that yesterday, the economic calendar was pretty full. Today, not really that much, but it doesn't mean that the markets are not going to be moving. So let's see what we can end up getting today. So first one off the line, the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a currency pair that we did end up having yesterday, but yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three regions that I had pointed out right there. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative within here. And you can see that the market was just coming in a very slow manner. So we were technically waiting to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Actually, we're watching out for selling opportunities. That's right. So for this one, you can see that the markets were just coming in slowly. We wanted to see if maybe we could have gotten the market possibly breaching this region to the downside. And hopefully we did get, maybe some sign of the buyers maybe attempting to move to the upside and the sellers possibly coming in aggressively. Then we would have possibly tried to see whether we could have gotten some sells. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And you can see that at 3, the market was just within this region, somewhere within here. And you can see that during the whole London session and also part of the Asian session, we just couldn't see the big sellers really coming in. And off this region, you can see that at 4:30, the market did actually end up turning to the upside and continue to move up. So for this one, these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So watch out for this region right here. Right now, it's not really a good time to look for the buying opportunities because you could easily be chasing. It's better to actually wait and see if you could get the market breaking above that region to the upside. If that doesn't happen, right now you can see that the sellers are now starting to come in, which is okay. Let's see if they can come in as close as possible within here. And you can see that during the Asian session, the market has really moved to the upside. Not really quite sure what could be going on that part of the world, but something is visible on the charts that the big boys are definitely up to something. So let's see whether we can get a nice pullback coming in within there. And of course, also watch out for this region right here. You could find that maybe at 3-4:30, it's easy for price to be back in within that region. At least if it is, then at least you will be ready for that. So the next one is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, also a currency pair that we did end up having yesterday. So for this one, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the 3 areas right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, price was somewhere within this region. So it had broken to the upside. But remember, I pointed out that we needed to see the market possibly come back in here and possibly see a sign of the big boy buyers, coming back into the game for us to look for the buyers. But you can see that the market came back in within a region or strategic area, but unfortunately, we just couldn't get the buyers showing up. And remember that it's always very important, to actually wait for that sign of the big boy buyers to come in. Because in as much as you actually end up hitting a buy within a buyer's region, just because we have a support region here and the buyers don't show up, then you can really see that the buyers really struggled within this area, and eventually, those buys will just end up leading to a stop loss. So it's very important, in as much as you end up watching out for the location, also watch out to try and see whether you can get a sign, of the big buyers showing up. So for this one, you can see that the market did end up coming down. And of course, something going on in Asia, with the Asian big boys, the market has come down, but we will be trying to see whether we can get selling opportunities on this one today. So hopefully you can end up taking note of these 3 regions right here. So right now we're more or less at the conservative region. So don't really end up looking for your selling opportunities right now. It's up until when the market breaks beneath this region to the downside. But also maybe give this region the benefit of doubt. You could find that during the London session open, the market could literally actually end up pushing to the upside. Then you could find that maybe during the US session, maybe at around 3-4:30, price could be back in within this region. Maybe price might need to actually come back in, within this area for some sort of a retest. So I will be waiting to see whether that's going to be the case. And of course, if that ends up being the case, then it's just a matter of timing to see, when the big boy sellers are actually going to show up, and could possibly try to see whether we could get some sales. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. This one is a new entrant on our watch list. So do watch out for those 3 areas right there. So right now, the market just seems like it's breaking above this region to the upside. There's an SNR here. Could have literally put it high up at the top within that region there. But let it just stay here because true SNR is here. So ideally, what we will be waiting to see is if the market can come back in, maybe even attempt. We just need to see some attempts, where you could possibly see some weeks or something of the sort, whereby the market is literally trying to break to the downside, but the buyers continue to hold above here. You could, at that point in time, look for the buying opportunities. However, caution is advised on this one. Reason being, remember one thing we always point out. If you're going to be looking for buys somewhere within here, in as much as you could target, for the high heavens, which is perfectly fine, but you also need to remember that there's this region right here, which is more or less your next problem area, which means that you also need to have the awareness at the back of your mind that you could also end up getting stuck in some sort of a range within this region. Maybe had the market really broken to the upside and come back in for a proper retest within this region, then that would be fine, because ideally you'd be targeting for the highest part where the market got high up until. But considering the fact that the high is right here, this one is going to be very tricky. So if in case the market actually ends up giving you a buy here, you just can't get past this region, you could actually end up managing your trade and doing some proper money management. But of course, the best scenario would be if the market could come back in maybe somewhere till within here. The good thing about that area is that if you look at the 1 hour time frame, you can see that the market was in some sort of a range, within these two regions right here. And when the market broke to the upside, it never really came back in for some sort of a retest. So my best bet would be maybe the market might actually end up coming back in within here. And if it does, at least this buy coming up, because you will be targeting the high there, that buy might actually end up being a much better buy for you. So let's just wait and see what happens on that one. But personally, I will technically be waiting to see whether I can get the buys closer here. The buys at the top, not too bad, unless maybe I had a gun to my head and I was forced to take a trade on this one. Maybe at that point in time, that's when I take the buy at the top. But considering the fact that we have so many things that we can look out for, I don't really need to force issues with that particular currency pair. So let's just wait and see what happens on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that I had pointed out right there. So aggressive right at the bottom right here, conservative at the top, and also semi-aggressive conservative here. And you can see that the buyers had showed up. This was during the Asian session, more or less. The market came back in. I pointed out that maybe we needed to see the market push to the upside and see an aggressive push of the buyers. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. And you can see that the market came back in within here. And you can see that at 3, it was back within a buyer's region, but we just couldn't get the buyers to actually push the market to the upside. And this one broke to the downside. So for this one for today, we're going to be going the other way. GBPs have been showing a lot of weakness, but it's also not very surprising considering the fact that on the correlation numbers, especially on the 4-hour time frame, you will find that the GBPs should actually be showing weakness. In fact, I think they are -6, which is quite weak. So for this one, let's see if we can get some proper pullbacks. You could find the market maybe even coming back in within here. You could find that after that, maybe the sellers might continue with their rampage. But of course, the best selling opportunity could be higher up, as close as possible within here. Gives us more range to the downside. So, when that ends up being the case in terms of risk to reward, that ends up being much better for us. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. But of course, also watch out for this region. You could easily find that maybe the GBP might not really have that much strength to really push the market to the upside that much. And you could find that maybe somewhere within here, the market could really struggle to get back there only for the sellers to continue pushing the market down. So I will also be watching out for this region right here. But also remember the red scenario at the top. You could easily find that the market could come back in within that area somehow. Remember that this being the Forex market, things are possible, especially right now, considering the fact that the markets are quite volatile. We're seeing the markets hitting extremes and stuff. You still could find that maybe the big boys might possibly end up needing that price. So just make sure that you're ready for it in case they do need that price. So the next one, and the last New Zealand dollar pair is the New Zealand dollar against Japanese yen. For this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. You can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, if we go back to a time like this yesterday, price was somewhere within this region here. You can see that the sellers had just pushed the market to the downside aggressively. This was during the Asian session, and the buyers were more or less struggling within this region here. You can see that at around 10, which was during the London market open, the market did actually end up making a move to the downside, just coming back in within this region. But definitely these buyers did give the sellers issues. You can see the fight that was ensuing within here. We just couldn't get past this region to the downside. And you can see that during the US session, the buyers did actually end up coming in off that area. Today, during the Asian session, the market has really taken off to the upside. So for this one, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So we will be looking for buying opportunities on this one. Right now, the pullback is coming in, although coming in quite aggressive. Let's see if we can get, the sellers possibly slowing down within here. If we get that and the buyers do show up, definitely we'll be looking to see whether I could get a buying opportunity somewhere here, making sure that you do manage somewhere within here, because anything past that region to the upside is not really guaranteed. What you can visually see is the next problem area is there. So ideally, if you do get this trade and get some proper good risk to reward on it, definitely make sure that you maximize on it. But also remember, price can also come back in all the way down to within these regions. It's possible. So at least if that happens, then I will also be ready for that. And of course, watching out and making sure that in case price breaks that red SNR to the downside, then unfortunately at that point in time, then there will be no trade for me as far as the New Zealand dollar and the Japanese yen is concerned. So that's pretty much it for the New Zealand dollar pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the AUD pairs, and we're going to do the same, mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we're going to start off with the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday. Yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, at a time like this yesterday, price was somewhere within here, sort of around 910. Pointed out that we did want to see the sellers come back in and maybe a hold, and possibly after that, look for a selling opportunity to come down. And you can see that the market and the big boy sellers somehow did actually end up showing up, and the market struggled within here. I mean, if you did end up getting a sell within here with your stops somewhere high up within there or there coming down, then you can see that the market did come down at least still within this region. Although the sellers really struggled, you can see that even if the big boys did actually end up showing up within here, the journey coming down really took ages. And you can see that when the market came in within this region, the market did actually end up turning to the upside quite fast. So for this one, we're going to be going the other way. So let's see if we can get some buying opportunities, and of course areas that we can also end up managing our trades within these three regions right here. So hopefully you can end up taking note of these three areas right here. So we do have the market now just coming back in within the conservative region. Sellers are coming in quite fast, but let's see if they can end up slowing down within this area. Hopefully we do get some sort of a slowdown within here. Then hopefully, if we do get a sign of the buyers coming in, then at that point in time, I will definitely be looking for a buying opportunity on that one. The market could be coming back in within this region, and of course, it could be coming back in for some sort of a retest. And of course, that means that if we do get the buys here, then the best area to target will be here, making sure that you do manage your trade within that area, even if you will be targeting much, much higher. So also watch out for the red SNR. In case the market comes back in within that region, then at least you will be ready for that as well. But also remembering that if the market breaks beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately at that point in time, then there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday, watching out for buys. Can't see the three regions that I had pointed out in the morning. When we're looking at the charts, price was back in within this region right here. And you can't see, unless you're reading this on the mini scale of things, but generally you can't see that the buyers did really attempt to push the market to the upside, but you can see how long it really took. Like they really struggled. If you look at how the sellers came down and how the buyers were pushing up, the buyers were really struggling, to push the market to the upside. And you can see that when the market just came back in within here, it couldn't even get all the way till the top there. You can see that the sellers at around during the US session, the market did actually end up turning to the downside quite fast, and doing what the buyers had done in a long period of time within a very short period of time. So, and you can see that when the market came back in within here, unfortunately, we just couldn't get the buyers pushing to the upside. And today, it seems that the buyers have completely been overwhelmed. So for us, for today, for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some sells. So focus on these three areas. These are the three areas that we're going to be focusing on. So right now, the market is pulling back in. Let's see whether we can get the market coming back in within there. And also maybe just looking at correlation. And I hope that you guys have a keen eye in terms of noting, especially like just looking at the AUDs or the NZDs, you can see that they're moving more or less together. And right now, the pullbacks are more or less happening, just like we've seen on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. And also for this one, you can see that this one is pulling back in maybe till somewhere within here. Let's see, we can get the buyers hopefully slowing down within here, and we get a sign of the sellers slowing down. Maybe even the market might need to tap somewhere within this area right here, then at that point in time, definitely we could try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities. But we do need the market to possibly end up tapping that area, get a slowdown, somewhere within here, then at that point in time, you could possibly try and see whether you could get some selling opportunities. So personally, I will be waiting for something like that. If I do end up getting maybe something like that within that region, then I'll definitely be trying to see whether I can get some sales within that area. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. And we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So I will be waiting for those three areas right there. Let's see what happens. Can also see this one is pulling back, just like we've seen with the rest of the AUDs, which is good. Let's see if we can get the market coming back in within this area. If we do get a slowdown of the sellers and the buyers showing up, then this could be a good buy, somewhere within here, targeting somewhere within this region. So make sure that you watch out for that, and also watch out for this region at the bottom right here. In case the buyers or the big boys do need that price, then at least we will try and see whether we can get the market slowing down within here, and hopefully the buyers showing up before we take a buy. Could target all the way high up there, but just make sure that you also manage and watch out for minor SNR, that could possibly also end up giving you some sort of issues. So the next Australian dollar pair is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Can see the three areas that I clearly mapped out yesterday in terms of where to wait for the buys. And we can see we could get the buyers coming in. And you can see that in the morning, at a time like this, the sellers had just come down quite aggressively within here. The buyers were really struggling to contain them. And you can see that even if the buyers were working off here, they just couldn't get past this region to the upside. And you can see a number of attempts that did end up happening within this area to break to the upside. We just couldn't get past there. And unfortunately, you can see that during the US session, the market did break to the downside. And you can see that the move to the downside has continued all through, even into the Asian session. So for this one, we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. Unfortunately, the buys yesterday were just not working. So we will be trying to see whether maybe we can join the sellers. The market is pulling back, which is something similar like we've seen on the rest of the AUDs, which is good. Correlation is in play, which means that if you do see one possibly rolling over, then also just have a look at the others to possibly see what's happening. And of course, that could ideally give you a signal that maybe it's the big boys who are possibly starting to get ready to jump into the markets. And, that gives you an extra confidence in terms of you taking the trade. But also, for those of you that are really good at looking at correlation, you could also end up getting a handful of pips, just by using correlation. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Have a look at the others just to try and figure out what could be going on. And right now, just looking at the AUDs, you can see the pullbacks are all happening, which is good. Seems like the big boy is well coordinated in terms of what they're doing. So we're going to be waiting to see when the turnaround does actually end up happening. So watch out for these two areas right here. So I will be waiting to see what happens. Hopefully, we can get the buyers dying out within this region right here. Then I will be looking for sales to come down till within this region. But of course, there are minor SNRs in between that you could find issues. You can see that, for example, within this area right here. On your way down, you definitely need to watch out for this area. Even right now, the fact that the market is coming back up, there's a possibility you could find that it might not come back in all the way to within there. It might just come in, tap in within this region. Maybe the buyers really struggle after that and you could find the sells. If that happens, and I see evidence that the buyers are really struggling within that area, then I will definitely be looking to see whether I can get some sales within there. And of course, making sure that I manage at the bottom where the market has actually gotten down until. So last but not least, for the AUD pairs, we do have the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, also a currency pair that we had yesterday, but yesterday we were trying to get some selling opportunities. You can see the three areas that I had mapped out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area. And I did point out that I was going to wait for price to come back into the downside. And I remember I did set an alert somewhere within here. The sellers came in quite aggressively. You can see that the market pulled back in within there before coming down. Although you can see that the sellers really struggled to break, beneath this region to the downside. And you can see that during the US session, the market did actually end up reacting off that area to the upside. So for this one, unfortunately, we couldn't get the lower lows and the lower highs like we would have expected, but it's okay. Remember, that's a reason why you always need to make sure that you do manage your trades because, the markets are very uncertain. One point in time, you could be moving in a particular direction. The next direction has completely shifted. So you always need to be ready for that. So for this one, we're going to be looking for buys. You can see similar fashion with the rest of the AUDs. The pullback is coming in, although quite aggressive. Let's see if we can get maybe the sellers slowing down within that area. And hopefully the buyers do end up showing up within this region here. Then I'll definitely be trying to see whether I could get some buys. Also watching out for that region at the top right there. But also remember, there is also this SNR somewhere within here. But right now, based on the fact that the sellers are coming in like this, it doesn't necessarily mean that price will get all the way to within here. I mean, there's a SNR somewhere within here. So what you could find is that maybe the market might even literally end up tapping somewhere within here. Maybe the sellers or the buyers just possibly need that price. Once we end up getting the market tapping within there, the market does actually end up getting pushed back to the upside. Then you could find that after the market holds within here, you could literally end up getting a buying opportunity. I mean, even if you end up targeting, for the moon with that buy, it's fine, as long as you actually end up managing your trade within this region right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that, but really keen to see what story ends up happening within that region. So I'll be closely monitoring and watching that with a keen eye like a hawk. So that's pretty much it for the AUDs. So let's move on to the next one. So the next one are going to be the Canadian dollar pairs. We're going to mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had mapped out. So in the morning, at a time like this, price was somewhere within this region right here. So at around 9:10, can see that price was somewhere within here. I did talk about price possibly coming back into the downside. Can see that the market pulled back in, but the sellers really struggled. And it's something that we've seen, I think, across all the CHF pairs. Like the sellers were just nowhere to be seen. And you can see that the market really struggled, coming to the downside. Couldn't even get all the way till within this region right here. Then you can see that the market turned around, got into some sort of a fight within this region right here. And today during the Asian session, the market has gone to the upside. So for this one, we'll be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So watch out for these three areas right here. Can see that the market is pulling back in within this semi-aggressive conservative region. Maybe the market could just need to end up coming back in for some sort of a retest of this region. If that happens, and of course, we do end up seeing some sign of the big boy buyers showing up, then at that point in time, definitely we could try and see whether we could get some buys coming up till within there, even if you could be targeting higher. But also watch out for this region at the bottom in case the market does end up coming back in within there. Just be ready for it. But remember that if the market breaks and holds beneath that red SNR, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities rather. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, at a time like this, price was somewhere within here. And we wanted to see whether we could have gotten a reaction of the buyers within here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. And you can see that even when the market did actually break to the downside, the buyers did seem like they reacted, but they just couldn't push the price above this region right here, for us to actually look for those buying opportunities. And you can see that seems that maybe the market broke to the downside. This was a quick retest back within that. And you can see that generally the market held to the downside of that region. And after that, the market has actually ended up coming down. So for this one, for today, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. Right now, the market is within a buyer's region. Don't look for your selling opportunities right now. Wait and see if you could get the market pulling back in, either back in all the way, maybe even all the way to the top, the aggressive area. But of course, the main area of interest right now is somewhere within this region. If we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here, then we could possibly try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities within there. But there are definitely quite a number of minor SNRs in between that you could also find the market possibly reacting off of. So just make sure that you possibly try and get your price as high up as possible as you can, but also really watching out for how the pullback comes in. I mean, if the buyers are unable to push the market to the upside, what you could find is that if the market breaks to the downside of this region, and maybe you have a repeat of something like this, within here where the market breaks to the downside, maybe even the buyers attempt to push to the upside, but they can't, and the market actually holds to the downside within this region right here, then we could possibly end up having a repeat of this. And at that point in time, you could actually end up looking for your selling opportunities. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But let's see what happens during the London session, because you could find that maybe the market could be on the pullback during the London, then maybe during the US session. That's when the market actually ends up giving a really good selling opportunity. So the next one is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. So we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. This one is also within a buyer's region. So don't really look for the selling opportunities here. Let's see if we can get the buyers coming up like they are. And hopefully they can end up possibly coming or pushing the price back somewhere within this region right here. There are also quite a number of SNRs. I mean, you could also find the market maybe, based on how the buyers really struggle, maybe they might not be able to come in all the way to within here. Although what we know is that this region right here is more or less like a major SNR. But I mean, if they end up coming in within the minor one, somehow within this region right here, and we find that they're really dying out and the sellers are now really starting to come in quite aggressive, then we could look for some sells within that region targeting down within this area. So you could also end up watching out for this region somewhere around here, I would say, to try and see whether you can get some sells within there. At least coming down, this risk to reward is worth it. Because remember, risk to reward is everything. Not every opportunity that you get should be an opportunity that you should be jumping into. I mean, if the risk to reward doesn't end up making sense, then don't take it. It's like the same thing even for guys who drive. Not every opportunity you get to overtake is an opportunity to overtake. Sometimes if you assess the risk and you're not quite sure what might end up happening, or you can't see a clear exit, you're better off actually not taking that chance. So same thing even with on the charts. Not every opportunity you get is an opportunity for you to jump in on. If the risk to reward doesn't make sense, just leave it. Wait for the next one or look for a better opportunity elsewhere. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were watching out for buys. You can't clearly see the three areas that I had mapped out within there. You can't see that during the London market open, the buyers did seem like they were going to come in, but unfortunately, they couldn't sustain price above that. And when the price broke to the downside, unfortunately, there were no buying opportunities for us on that one. So for this one, for today, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So watch out for these three areas right here. So these are the three areas I will be waiting to see whether I can get the market to possibly give me some opportunities, and also areas where I can manage. So you can see that there's a seller who's sitting somewhere within here. The market broke to the downside, came back in for a proper retest, pushed to the downside. Right now, the buyers are really struggling to come up, which is good. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that they can possibly come in somewhere as close as possible within here. If that happens, then ideally, maybe we could get a replica of this and we could find the market giving us a proper selling opportunity. So just make sure that you watch out for that. There's a minor SNR here. Consider the buyers have really struggled to attempt to break above this region to the upside. Not quite sure what could be going on here, unless you're maybe looking at this on a smaller time frame to really try and get a 3-1 type of trade coming down to within here. But in terms of the 15-minute story, you're possibly much better off maybe waiting for the selling opportunities, maybe higher up, somewhere within here, and also watch out for that region at the top right there. For as long as we're holding below that, then at least the sales are still valid. If the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately at that point in time, the selling opportunities will be out. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. You clearly can't see the three regions that I had mapped out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. So you can see that around 9, 10, price was somewhere within this area right here. Started to come to the downside. This was during the London market open. So you can see that maybe looking at it on the mini scale of things, could possibly see some sort of a turnaround, maybe on the 3-minute. Can see that the market broke some minus and now they pull back into the upside, and can see that at exactly 10, the sellers did actually push the market to the downside, but we just couldn't get past this region to the downside. And you can see that during the US session, the market did actually start to push to the upside. And during the Asian session, not quite sure what's going on, but you generally can't see that the big boys seem to be pushing the market to the upside. Maybe you could find that this could be some pullbacks that could be happening. We had a lot of deliberations with the Afriforex team in the morning trying to figure out what could be going on. But, the yens have really been coming down for an extended period of time. So what you could be finding, maybe these are just the pullbacks. Maybe the market is possibly trying to refresh itself. But of course, us being 15-minute traders, in as much as generally the market still seems and the buyer still seems to be to the downside, for us guys as 15-minute traders, it's our job to actually end up getting those moves moving to the upside. Because I mean, if you're just waiting for the sales, then I mean, you're just swing trading. So you might actually not end up getting a trade in within the day. But you see, for us, even if we end up getting these buying opportunities until wherever the market gets up, until if it's on the pullback on the bigger time frame, it's fine. When the market does end up turning, then we'll make sure that we do actually end up turning with it. So for us for today, these are the 3 areas we're going to be watching out for. Let's see what happens. If the market gives us a good buying opportunity within here, and let's say the sellers do actually end up slowing down and the buyers do show up, consider the market broke this region to the upside. So I'm really keen to see what type of retest we end up having, within this area right here. And of course, if we do end up getting the big boy buyers showing up, these buyers rather, then at that point in time, I will be attempting some buys to come up and challenge that region right there, even if maybe we could try and attempt to go much higher with this one. So do watch out for that. Remember the red SNR at the bottom, and of course, remember the times 10, 3, and 4:30. And no matter what you do, always make sure that you do trade with a stop loss and stick within your risk parameters at all times. So that's pretty much it for the currency pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. Nothing much has changed on this one. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten bias. The bias is still to look for buying opportunities. You can't see the 3 regions that I had pointed out, which are more or less the same as today. The market hasn't really gone far and beyond those areas. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, so at around 9:10, price was somewhere within this region, just coming down. Remember, I pointed out, we wanted to see whether we could get the market possibly giving us something within this region to look for the buying opportunities. The market did break to the downside, attempted to come up, couldn't. There was another attempt to come down lower. Can't see that the market almost came back in within this region, but just couldn't, came back into the upside. I mean, if you looked for your buying opportunities at around this time, this was at around 6:30 or thereabout. This was the perfect buy. After the market came back into the upside, pulled back in within there, and you can see that it did end up attempting to break above this region to the upside, maybe even getting all the way to the top. But it seems that there's definitely a big fight that's going on with this one. So for this one, to some extent, could be having some sort of a channel, some sort of a range. Not quite sure. It's a bit messy, but what we do know is that the best buying opportunities are possibly somewhere within here. Definitely will need to manage your trade within that region at the top there, but also remember that there's also an SNR within here. You can see the number of times that the market has tapped within that region and the sellers have turned the market around. So in as much as this is the major area that we're watching out for, but there's also this region right here. And you can see that even right now, the market is just turning off this area. So that means on your way up, just make sure that you really do watch out for that region right there. And of course, the red SNR at the bottom, for as long as we're holding above that, then the bias is to look for buying opportunities. So moving on into the next one, this is the Dow Jones. So for this one, yesterday we're watching out for sales. Can't see the 3 regions that I had pointed out, which are more or less the same. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. I did point out that we did need to see the sellers show up. They did. And you can see that move coming down. That was an aggressive seller. The market pulled back in within that region. And you can see that during the London session, the sellers really struggled. The market pulled back in again. And during the US session, the US big boys were able to actually push the market all the way back into within this region. But you can see how fast the market turned off that area. And this is the reason why, we keep on telling guys, like, sometimes and most of the times you will find that the markets will give you one chance to manage your trade. So you can imagine when the market was down within this region right here and you're still not closing your trade, I don't know what you're waiting for. And the market immediately turns. A profit turns into a loss very fast when it comes to, the Forex markets. You also need to be very quick. Don't really have too much negotiations with the market. If you've already seen that the market is backing within a region, you had predetermined that region, then make sure you take action. Don't start second guessing yourself. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. So we'll be watching out for those 3 areas right there. So let's see what happens. Hopefully we can get the market at least coming back into the downside of this region. We could look for sales. You can see that the sellers did push the market to the downside quite aggressively. This was at around 10 or thereabout last night. And you can see that since then, the buyers have just been attempting to push the market to the upside. So, of course, for as long as price is just holding just above this region, you don't really want to be looking for yourselves there. At least you're better off looking for yourselves higher up. At this point in time, you could possibly get a proper sell, coming down with some proper risk to reward. But within here, based on the 15, unless you're looking at it on a 3-1, it might be better to actually wait for the market to either come in, break this region to the downside, then at that point in time, you could possibly end up getting a proper sell to come down to within this region right here. But also remember for this one, we're fully technical. For as long as we're holding below that red SNR, then the bias is to look for selling opportunities. So the next one, this is silver. Now for silver, yesterday we were trying to also see whether we could have gotten some sells, but we did end up having 4 levels. You can't see them there. It's not very common to have 4 levels, but sometimes based on how the markets actually end up moving, it necessitates for that. So you can't see the 4 levels that we had. Today we've narrowed them down to 3, and you can't see yesterday at a time like this, the market was somewhere within here. I did point out caution in terms of looking for the sells when price was somewhere within this region. You can see the number of times the market attempted to break this region to the downside. It seems like some sort of a range is actually forming, within this region right here. But let's see if we can get the market possibly coming back in somewhere as close as possible, within this region right here. This is the major area, and hopefully the market can just come back in somewhere as close as possible within there. Then we could look for, some proper selling opportunities. But even right now, I mean, if you're going to be looking at it in terms of what's happening with this pullback on the 3-minute time frame, you could possibly find that within this region, still could find some proper selling opportunities. You can see that the market has stopped and turned here a number of times. Right now, you can see that the buyers who are pushing up are somewhere within here. They've pushed to the upside. The market seems to be holding within here. I mean, if you do end up looking for some sells within here, you could definitely target down within this area right here. But of course, you also need to watch out for this region right here, which is a minor SNR. That you could find that in as much as you come down, you could find that the market could easily turn off this region and just come shy, off this area right here. So as long as you have that at the back of your mind, then definitely you should be fine. So let's see what happens. Hopefully these sellers who push the market down aggressively are gonna roar back to life again, because yesterday they were nowhere to be seen. We kept waiting for them. We couldn't see them. Let's see if maybe today they might decide to end up showing up. And if they do, please, we will be ready for that. So last but not least, we do have gold. As Mitch loves to call it, the fan favorite, but also the one thing that has really broken the most number of hearts and sent many people packing. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. So the aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. And remember, I pointed out there was this minor SNR, which was not really a good area in terms of looking for the sells unless the market broke to the downside, because the market was in some sort of a range within here. And you can't see that the market came back in within here. I also gave an illustration of what to expect, or what I was waiting for. And the market came back into the upside, came back in within this region. And you can see that at 3, the market did actually end up coming to the downside till somewhere within here, which is exactly what I had illustrated. So you can see that the market is stuck within here. And also interesting to see that the market actually pulled back in. I hope you guys can see that, this week right here, where the market broke to the downside, just pulled back in within that region for some sort of a retest. And right now we're more or less holding within this region right here. So for this one, the levels are the same. So we will be waiting to see what happens. Of course, right now, considering the fact that we're just holding just above that SNR, that should tell you that you shouldn't really be looking for your selling opportunities right now. So let's wait and see if either we can't get the market coming back in. Of course, you still could possibly be watching out to see what happens within here. To see what happens. I mean, if the buyers really struggle and maybe they die out within here, you still could find some proper sales still happening off this region right here. But let's wait and see also what happens within this region. You could find maybe something similar to this, what happened yesterday. I mean, you could find that, during the London session, the market could really be struggling to push to the upside. Then maybe during the US session, the market is back in within this region and do something similar to what it did yesterday. So watch out for that. Of course, remember the red SNR at the top. Also a slight possibility price could get there. If it does, then at least you will be ready for it. So remember, for as long as we're holding below this this level right here, the bias is to look for sales. I mean, if you get some buying opportunities, definitely you can end up jumping in on them, but don't be overly ambitious with your buying opportunities, because generally the market is within what we call a seller zone. So generally the sellers are still mostly in control. They can come back in at any given point in time, without any warning. If you look at even somewhere within this region right here, it seems that the market was just quiet within there. Then out of nowhere, the sellers just ended up showing up. And you see, those are the risks that you actually end up signing up for, especially when you're taking counters, whereby you think things are going well. 1 minute, the next thing, things actually just end up turning and going south very fast. So, I mean, like the industry says, the trend is your friend, and all those sayings. I'm sure you guys have heard them. But generally, always stick in line with where the flow of the big boys is generally pushing the market. So that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So I hope guys have taken note of that. For guys who've checked in late, hopefully also you've taken note of what the watch list is going to be looking like. So let's look at the Q&A to see if there are any questions. So I see George Chege there saying, morning, John and team. Good to see you, George, and also well done on your trade. And I also see Alan Ronald there. You're saying, hi, John, thanks a lot. Karibu sana, Alan. Also always good to see you here. So I guess that's pretty much it. I'm not really seeing anything else. And I see a quick one. It's interesting when I always say I don't see anything else, that's when things pop up. So I see Patricia, good to see you there. You're asking for AUD USD. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So hopefully, Patricia, you can end up taking note of that. So let's see what happens. Right now, the market seems like it's just attempting to bounce off this region right here. But, of course, getting the buys within here, the risk to reward might not really end up being worth it. So let's see if we can possibly get the market maybe coming in a bit lower till somewhere within this region right here. If we do end up getting that, then maybe we could get some buying opportunities within that area right there. So hopefully you've taken note of that. And of course, the red SNR, also make sure that you take note of that. And I see Stephen Getonga, good to see you. You're asking about CADN. So for CADN, this one we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. We have the pullback coming in. Although it's coming in thick and fast, we just need to wait and see if we can get the market possibly slowing down within here. If we end up getting that, then at that point in time, we could possibly try and see whether we could get some buys. So ideally, I will be waiting to see whether I can get a slowdown within this area, then hopefully get some buying opportunities within that region. So I hope that sorts you out, Stephen. And I see Patricia saying, Asante Sana, we appreciate these sessions always. All right, good to hear that. And also, we appreciate you for showing up here, because, we'd be presenting to ourselves if you didn't show up, but much appreciated, Patricia, and of course, everyone else. So I guess that's pretty much it from me. Let's see what the day has to offer. Remember to watch out for your risk. Also remember, if you need more education, that's where we are here, and more insight. There are a couple of courses that we do have. Feel free to visit our website. And also for the AMP, the class is about to begin for August, and also for September. Good to see that lots of guys are signing up, which is good. And of course, since there are a couple of slots that are left for the August one, if you want to jump in on that, also make sure that you do jump in on that. There should be a link on the chat box that should guide you there. For the guys watching on the socials, I think there should be a link on the video descriptions that has the links to everything that we do end up offering, and you will definitely find that information there. So I guess that's it from me. I want to thank you guys for showing up. I know there are lots of guys joining from all over the place, which is good. And especially we see a lot of guys also from Eldoret. We hear there's a Forex scam there. I hope you guys were not scammed. And also, guys, remember, don't really give your money to anyone to trade, especially with the high returns. This is just a side note that just popped in. And I have to warn guys, don't give your money to people who are saying that they're going to be doing some trading for you. If they can guarantee you those high returns, they might as well trade for themselves, and make those high returns. So hopefully none of you have been scammed. Maybe some of you have been scammed in the past, but it's also interesting to see that people never learn. And I can guarantee you the next Forex scam is in the cooking. There's another one that's possibly coming, and guys are definitely going to be handing over their money. These things just end up proving to show that human psychology never changes. Same thing even with on the charts. Human psychology is very hard to change. So just make sure that you're safe out there. Don't just give your money. At least we're here to give you advice. And of course, this thing is doable. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. So with that, may the pips be with you. God bless and bye for now.